AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Our host brings you the leading minds in AI, sharing their story, their success, and their advice. Focusing on fast-tracking you to the top, AI in Action cuts through the hype to help you kickstart your data science career. To listen to the latest AI in Action podcast, head over to www.alldus.com/podcast or subscribe via iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Podcasts.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of the Alldus podcast. I'm your host, Ben Sparks, and today we are continuing with our Digital Transformation series. We are lucky to host our guest, Jeffrey Tefertiller. Jeffrey is an ITSM and business consulting executive and has a strong history in the ITSM background. He hosts a show called the Jeffrey Tefertiller Service Management Leadership Podcast, and we definitely would recommend you go check those guys out. He is specializing in interviewing leaders from across the industry, where he is focused on sharing some of the key learns, best practices, and experiences across the ITSM industry. Jeffrey previously worked at organizations including KPMG and Oklahoma Gas and Electric. He has held directorship level roles and has a strong passion for customer experience and has led geographically diverse teams in both large and smaller or IT organizations. We're happy you could spare the time, and between his own podcasts and in this conversation, Jeff will be giving us an overview of his career and how he got into ITSM, his current podcast and the value it's bringing to the community, why people are important within digital transformational change, and some key mentorship experience that he's learned on his casual 23 years of experience. So, Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you. You say casual. I've been in this space a long time, and people are everything. It's people are the reason you're successful, no matter what you're doing. And so I always want to trumpet that as much as I can.
No, definitely, and I think the podcast is testimony to that. So that's awesome. So, look, I'm sure people have seen you out there on LinkedIn, but let's give our listeners a quick overview of who you are and maybe a bit about your career to date.
Oh, I started in this space in '94, doing where I co-owned an IT asset management managed service provider. That was back when hardware assets were worth a lot. People cared about them, and transitioned into the ITIL space in the 2000s, achieving the ITIL expert in 2014. A lot of people have it, but it just gave me a way to view the world. My last corporate position was Director of Service Management at KPMG. I left there last January and went all in on service management leadership, a company I started a few years ago and had been doing consulting on the side along the way. And so I really enjoy helping people. The podcast is there to help. Everybody's doing their job and they feel like I'm the only one that's going through this. And so it's great to hear perspectives from other leaders who are going through similar situations, have similar decision points.
Excellent. Yeah, no, it's awesome. And the actual organization itself is, focused both in the ITIL space and ServiceNow business community. Is that right?
For the service management piece, and we also do business continuity and software asset management. And where all three of those are is pretty interesting, is because there's so many companies out there that are so tool centric, and more power to them. Where we try to position ourselves is helping organizations make sense. What are we trying to accomplish? How do we get there? What resources? How do we empower our people? What we are doing, how is that all stitched together to our bigger strategy?
Nice. So let's talk the podcast then for the moment. How did it get started? How did you sort of come about with that idea, and where's it taking you? And I suppose I've got lots of questions, but I'm really interested in the value it's bringing and why.
Oh, that's a great question. I started a YouTube channel in 2017, and I have 1,000+ videos out there. And then 2018, wow. I wrote some books, and the books are 99 cents ebooks on ITSM. And then 2020, I started a podcast, and they were all like, how can I help people on their journey? How can I help them understand? How can I help them get where they need to be? I I guess I'm in that space where I think that somebody helped us. No matter what we do for a living, no matter what it is, somebody helped us. And so, how can I help others? How can I help pass it on? And I'm a believer that the rising tide lifts all boats. So that's how the podcast, it's just a different medium to try to help people.
Awesome. And so again, some of the things that resonated with me in that is that, we have a very strong mentorship track. So, if I think back to, your career in industry, if I can use that phrase, and your work potentially at KPMG, and also maybe even then bringing in some of the key themes you're learning from the podcast and the cool people you have on there. What are some of the key advice you have to people and themes that you're hearing out there?
Well, this first part is just my view. I think in this world, we are rewarded for what we do well. Here in the US, LeBron James is rewarded on how well he shoots a basketball, not how well he throws a football. And the same is true in our world. And so the service management world, we see the technology landscape, the environment through a business lens. So we think, how much does it cost? How can we help our business customers with uptime? How can we put metrics and measures around it? How can we treat it like a business? And so that's why service management really connected with me. And that's what I try to pass along to others is, there are a lot of really sharp technology people in this world, but there are very few that really see it through a business lens. And so when I think about mentoring people, it's helping them see that through the business side, helping them see the bigger picture. Plus, everybody needs somebody to go to when they're frustrated. And so I want to be there for those people. I want somebody to call me up and say, hey, I'm in this situation. I don't know what the right answer is. Can you listen and give me some feedback? We all need those people in our lives.
Gotcha. No, and what are some of the key themes that you're hearing on your podcast when it comes to maybe what would be interesting to people embarking on a digital transformation journey?
Oh, there's some common themes. One of them is you're not alone. Everybody thinks that theirs is different. Like you mentioned, I was at Oklahoma Gas and Electric. Electric utility people think that their industry is unique. KPMG thought that the consulting industry is unique, but the people are still people and they're still going through similar issues. They still worry about culture and getting the people prepared for the transformation. Because when we're digitally transforming an environment, we are impacting the people the most. We may be adding new technology or changing technology or doing something else, but it's the people that are going to determine our success. And that's the one common thing you hear from leaders. The best leaders that I know are the ones that know they need their people. And so they're like, how can I get my people ready to undergo this big of a change?
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and it's interesting, team and also stakeholder engagement seems to be a bit of a theme throughout our podcasts. So you mentioned it a few times there, yeah, and you probably touched on it a bit, but before we spoke about this podcast, we talked about people being valuable to an implementation of, let's say, ServiceNow, but I know there's other products out there. Why are people such a key part of this implementation?
Well, what's interesting is when we talked about is how people came to service management, ServiceNow. Anybody over the age of 30 doing ServiceNow stuff, service management, ServiceNow, came to it mid-career. There's no college program. Here's how to be service management, ServiceNow. There's none of this. And so somebody had to mentor us. Somebody had to bring us from another area into this area. And so we need to start thinking long-term of how do we have in our organizations a hierarchy where we're always bringing in junior people to prepare them to step up, and then next step up and next step up, and try to prepare these paths. That's one of my biggest things. So like in the service management world, a change manager or an incident manager, that's a hard job. And it's a lot of soft skills and it's difficult. And people, they can't just fall into that job. They need somebody to help them, especially since there's no schooling for it. And so there needs to be a thought, especially on these transforming organizations, of how do we keep this talent pipeline going? Because if all we're doing is going to the market every time we need someone, we're A, going to take a lot of risks on culture, and B, we're probably going to overpay because we're going to have so much churn that it's not going to be worthwhile.
Gotcha. No, excellent. So look after the people, embrace them, and I think if you are someone in these new environments, seek out mentorship. Definitely. You know, and I suppose just lastly from my side, look, you've been around a while, as you mentioned. What advice would you give to your younger self if you can go back a few years, if you were starting out?
Well, there's a few things. First is, whenever the younger we are, the shorter perspective we have. I remember when I was 18, I thought 30 was ancient, you know? And so as I look back, I think to ask people, figure out what you do best and figure out how to do it better than all the rest. It doesn't matter what your passion is, what area, technology, not technology, figure out what you do best, because you're going to be rewarded for that. And also, if you seek to help others on their journey, you'll be much happier than if you're just focused on yourself. We know this the older we get, because we love helping those. We're happiest when we help others, but sometimes we need to be reminded of that along our way.
Nice. Yeah, I was talking to someone the other week, and they were saying, make yourself valuable and then bring other people on that journey with you. So I think that leads quite well. Awesome. Well, look, I really appreciate your time, Jeffrey. Is there anything else you would like to add before we go?
No, I appreciate you having us on, having me on, and my podcast is there to help others on their journey. So I always appreciate being able to guest and, talk about my journey as well.
No, definitely. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
AI in Action is brought to you by Alldus International, covering your business's staffing, consulting, and networking needs. Alldus offer an exec search program. Alldus can help you discover how data science and AI can transform your company. With our unrivaled network of C-suite executives and senior AI professionals, we offer retained search services across the US and Europe. Get the Alldus advantage. Become a member of the Alldus community and enjoy some of the following: AI meetups. Once a month, our community gathers to listen to some of the leading experts in the world of data science and AI. Our speakers come from all over the world, including Dublin, Boston, and Frankfurt. We also have our AI mentors. Our experts will provide mentoring to Alldus members. And don't forget our AI in Action podcast. Each week we have guests from all over the world talking us through their education, career, and more. Become an Alldus member and get the Alldus advantage. For more information and to sign up for our newsletter, log on to www.alldus.com. That's www.alldus.com. Alldus International, empowering through AI.